Welcome back to the Art of Hobbiness. I'm Erin, joined by my lovely co-host Tam.
Hi.
And today we are talking about an interesting topic about how hobbies can make you more successful in life, just generally in business world, but also parenting, leadership, and all sorts of different areas. So I think you came across this interesting article and you sent it to me from Inc.com.
Yes.
And it was about celebrity hobbies and just talking about how hobbies in general can help you be more successful in life.
Yeah, but you know
it's an
what?
Interesting idea.
It wasn't even just like having hobbies. It was
Right.
about being passionate about hobbies.
Right.
That was the part that I found the most interesting and why I sent
Yeah.
it to you. Well, also because I thought it was interesting to read the celebrity hobbies.
Yeah, I mean, that is always interesting. We will share some of
How
those
do
as
we
well.
get those guys on this show?
Right. That would be incredible, right? That would be fun.
Dolly Martin,
Yeah.
this is my public claim to get you on my show and talk about your hobbies, please.
Oh, gosh, that would be so cool.
Right, but no, it talks
Yeah.
about like how specifically being passionate. Like they was talking about how if you look at some of like the greatest celebrities in time, like was it Steve Martin?
Yeah.
Like is incredibly passionate about banjo.
Yeah.
Which you would never
Right.
know, right? But they were talking about how those key passions to those successes are what's making them successful in their life, because a lot of the skills you learn from being passionate about a hobby translates over into other areas of your life.
Right.
It gives you skill set, right?
Yeah, right. It gives you, and it some surprising things I hadn't considered too in the article, and it makes sense now that we've talked about it. So I want to share that with our listeners. But
Yeah.
you know, the one thing that stood out to me was this idea of creative spillover. I never really heard that term, but this idea that if you just like any muscle in your body, if you utilize it, it's going to get stronger, right?
Yes.
And so your brain is the same. So this idea of utilizing your creativity through hobbies, whatever that may be, can literally spill over, strengthens that brain muscle to utilize that in other areas of your life. So utilizing that in business or as a parent, you know, and it helps you be more agile and, yeah, like you said, have a larger skill set.
Well, you're
that
right.
was really cool.
It's funny that you use the term creative spillover, because in my research, it was the cup is full, right?
Yeah.
And it was talking about yet another spillover, all fluid metaphors. And it was talking about how, you know, as millennial moms, for instance, like we constantly talk about how we just feel like our cup is being drained, right, and being pulled out of. But like, what fills the cup, right? Well, hobbies can actually be used as a way to fill the cup, right? And if you practice your hobby skills, which for me, a lot of them was breaking through perfection. Like I feel like I feel like I can confidently say now had like this huge perfectionism wall that I could not get past, and it literally affected every area in my life. And parenting was the one area I didn't want it to be so much so, and it really was like the most glaringly one, right? And by me trying hobbies and learning to suck at them,
To make mistakes,
and like, you know, part of my journey on this podcast is like basically doing like the dirty jobs version of hobbies, right? Like I try a new hobby and I try a new hobby and I try a new hobby. Well, I've noticed I've gotten a little bit more comfortable with kind of sucking at something, not knowing how to do anything, and just throwing myself in that. And that's kind of spilling over into my parenting world. Is I'm learning to kind of be okay when I make mistakes. Like before, if I made a mistake as a mom, like, man, I put myself in the bathroom and just kind of sit and pout for a little bit and just be like, Mom will be out in a second. I just need a moment, you know? Whereas now I don't feel like I'm as crippled by a mistake.
That's amazing.
You know,
Yeah.
I feel like
Yes.
now that I've had a lot of practice in the hobby arena of kind of failing and then trying again, like when it comes to like my kids now, if I do something that I personally feel is a failure, I'm like, dang it. Okay. Let me have a conversation with my kid and explain where I was trying to come from there and how it probably didn't work out the way I wanted it to, but you know, let's try again tomorrow kind of thing, or let's try again.
That's amazing.
Let's try in this task.
How incredible, right?
Well, you know,
Really.
again, I just think it just comes from practicing in a creative arena. You know, I would say if I
and
just
strengthening that skill.
yes,
Right?
and strengthening
Just-
it, and being passionate about it, because like in my work life, like I have to be productive, right? And so I'm a little more afraid to have trial and error in my work life, because not only do I have like a is that actually a direct reflect to a whole company?
Yeah.
But also it's because, like financial ties to that, right? You don't want to fuck up.
You don't want to mess up, right? I know. Yes, absolutely. But hobbies are a low stakes place to make mistakes.
Yes,
right?
exactly. And so like it's a great arena to practice in and let that spill over.
Definitely.
And by being passionate about learning and trying new things in that arena, I do feel like it's allowing me to kind of be more, it's not crippling me in other areas.
That's amazing.
I feel like
That's
I'm
so
trying.
Amazing. Well, and I think like overall, it just it boosts your well-being as a person, right?
Absolutely.
And then you're going to show up better in all areas of your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's, there's so many awesome things. And I thought this article was so great, and this research that showed this was just so amazing to exactly what we're speaking to, and that we've lived. Like we could be in this article or research. We should have done our own research study on ourselves.
Our own article. But it's you keep talking about how like the passionate piece about it. I think in the beginning, I thought that hobbies were just something that only like was a luxury to people, right? But I think when you look at how passionate people can be about hobbies, I think that just kind of shows how maybe hobbies aren't necessarily just a luxury. Maybe hobbies should be considered a necessity.
Yeah,
like change. Like I think early on, I thought for sure hobbies were a luxury.
Yeah.
And I also kind of thought they were a waste of time.
Really? Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. Like I lived and breathed that hustle culture, right?
Yeah. I'm right there with you. Yeah.
Downtime,
definitely.
which would have been what hobbies would have felt in, felt like wasted time. And I was just like, how could you waste that time? Time is money, right? But I think as we continue to explore the benefits of hobbies, I think we're realizing that being just as passionate about a hobby as you are as passionate about, making a living for your family, can really benefit.
Definitely. It's just going to like be reciprocal, it's just going to help boost that if that is what you want, your business life to improve that.
Oh yeah. And you can and then like that, like you said, that creative spillover spills over into your career and spills over into your parenting. And it just creates a more even, pleasant playing field across all of the arenas of your life, as opposed to just putting all of your efforts into the one productive cup that's really just, working towards a company.
Yeah. And then you're going to, if you do that, you're going to, as we know, you're going to burn yourself out. You're going to be stressed. You're going to be anxious. You're going to get depressed, like all the bad things you don't want. And then therefore your productivity is going to go down and all the negative things that come along with that. So it's like if you don't make time for, like somebody once told me that if you don't make time for yourself, your body's going to make time for, like, is going to force you to make that time.
Oh yeah.
Because of just like the stress that comes out and like the aches and pains that can come out physically.
Like how you'll just get like sick. You literally work yourself to death.
Yes. Yeah.
Can you creative yourself to death?
I don't know. I can't imagine.
Starving
Seems
artist.
Like it's so positive. Well, that's different though. That's a different kind of stress, right?
Trying to figure out. I was like, there's got to be something. We'll have to ask some of our creative folks. If only we had a show where we can interview somebody in that arena and see what they would say.
Yeah. Gosh, we should start a show like that.
We should.
The other interesting fact that I thought was just a nice little tip was that the research showed that employees who have hobbies are more likely to get promoted.
Are they really?
Yeah, that's what it said. I thought that, it makes sense with all the things we're talking about.
Well, yeah, it does.
Yeah.
You're right. Because, if you think about it, it's just...
You show up better to work.
You show up more positive.
You perform better. You're more, more positive, more
You're
creative.
more creative.
Yeah.
Yep. Because you already know how to navigate and switch the brain to different arenas to think outside the box.
Yes.
Which I will say, I personally feel like I'm so much better at these days is thinking outside the box.
I agree.
Yeah.
I
feel
see
like
more possibilities or more options, definitely more open to different things.
Did that article, this is a total side note, Erin.
What's that?
I just want to go, which one, the celebrities and their hobbies, was there one in there that surprised you?
I'm trying to remember. I don't think there was anything that super surprised me.
Yeah.
No. Was there anything that surprised you besides the banjo?
That one stuck with me just because I love it. So
I guess Justin Bieber was like a Rubik's Cube master or something like that.
I think I knew that. Yeah,
didn't know
that one's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
We'll have to go through one of these episodes. We'll have to do like a whole list of celebrities.
Hobbies. Yeah, that would be fun. Did you have another one that you stood out to you?
There was somebody in there that did a unicycle, and I couldn't remember which one. Was Mark Ruffalo?
Oh, maybe that sounds right.
Was it him?
Yeah.
I didn't even know like unicycles were still a thing.
Yeah.
How did somebody
Like,
fall
why
into
would
that?
somebody pick that up?
How do you fall into that?
I don't know.
It's brilliant.
But it is brilliant. It's challenging. I mean, unique,
Agile.
Definitely a party trick. I don't know, pull that unicycle out.
Yes. But anyway, so to go back to the article, highly recommend you take a listen or take a read of it.
Definitely,
because
it is good. We can link that in our bio or in the episode thing. I think it's to your point, like hobbies aren't just for celebrities, right? It's for everybody.
It's for everybody.
And like and it's not just hobbies, it's like making the time for yourself, whatever that may be, right? Yeah. And it can just start small. It doesn't have to be anything big. You do not have to take on learning a musical instrument or anything like that. It can be really small. We found just like 10 minutes of any sort of like walking, coloring, any sort of little hobby can really make a difference.
Yeah. And the article points out that most every successful person has a hobby. Yeah. And so it's clearly, it's not, I mean, in my mind, that suggests that a hobby is like critical
necessary, yes.
Making you a well-rounded person and potentially even a more successful person. And so I highly recommend that you get a hobby.
So indirectly, your hobby does make money. Makes you more money.
Erin,
if that's what's important to you.
It might be to some people, but maybe that, oh my goodness, you're right. Interesting. So it doesn't necessarily have to be, because, we're always like, you don't have to have your hobby make money, right? Your hobby's supposed to bring joy. Right. But maybe.
I mean, we have to have money to live, right? So if you just like.
Helps you better in that arena, which eventually then continues to help you make more money.
Yeah. Mind blown.
You're mind blowing.
It all comes full circle.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for listening to us today. We appreciate you joining us. Make sure you check us out on the socials, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. Bye.
Thanks for listening to The Art of Hobbiness. Be sure to leave a review and rating. And for a little extra Erin and Tam fun, be sure to follow us on Instagram and Pinterest for behind the scenes footage of our journey to find hobbiness.